Live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125 across all our social media handles. This is The Pulse. My name is Faustina Safa, and coming up on The Pulse this afternoon, we'll start with the President, John Dramani Mahama, because he names former Chief of Staff Prosper Bani as National Security Advisor in key security appointments announced a while ago. Stay with us for details of all those appointments this afternoon on The Pulse. Also, President John Dramani Mahama is set to engage the Asantehene as part of his ongoing mediation efforts to ensure lasting peace in Bawku.
In the process of forming my government, so I'm just appealing to my father that they should exercise patience while I set up the government.
We have details on his peace-building mission as he engages the overlords of Bawku and Bawku Kingdom on the situation. Plus, we put the spotlight on ministerial nominees for the Greater Accra region, the Ashanti region, and Upper East region. We asked the question this afternoon on The Pulse: can they tackle the region's unique challenges? We have answers for you. Also coming up, minority in Parliament cuts through chairman of the Appointments Committee, accusing him of partisanship and being an obstacle to the real interrogation of John Mahama's ministerial nominees.
We denied the Ghanaian people and the minority members of the committee the opportunity to conduct a thorough vetting of the nominees. He was protective of the nominees and extremely partisan.
We have details of that press conference as they describe the Minister for Finance designate, Dr. Kasael Atuforsin, as being ill-prepared and evasive when he appeared before the committee. We have these and many more coming up on The Pulse. My name is Faustina Safa. It's a good time to take a seat. Please be my guest. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. We are streaming across all our social media platforms. You can share your thoughts with us on any of our stories. We are Joy News on TV. Well, this afternoon, President John Dramani Mahama is set to visit the Asantehene, Otumfuo Osei II this weekend as part of his ongoing mediation efforts to secure lasting peace in Bawku. Now, during his visit to the king and overlord of Bawku Kingdom, Na Bogu Bohagu Mahami Abdullah II, President Mahama stated his government's commitment to prioritizing peace. Now, he urged the feuding factions to lay down their arms and promised to take every necessary measure to restore harmony. Well, on Tuesday, Mahama embarked on a peace-building mission to Bawku and Nalirugu, where he engaged conflict factions and key stakeholders to promote dialogue aimed at resolving the decade-old conflict.
I just came to appeal to him to exercise restraint and patience, and his subjects to exercise restraint and patience, and trust that we'll resolve this matter amicably.
Na nero sugu wanchana ma uchana no susi epa hansuguru epunya suguru dana ni epa hansuguru kayari eda damaza tensema na dama na chima iyan sokanza ne pa hansuguru suguru yi chanala enyala banyangan pia bokomo to amana ka amali zugu uchana no suhla suhdrama eto ante sokamza ka karbeni ka sokamza na disuguru kunya suru nyangan pia to amani.
I'm in the process of forming my government, so I'm just appealing to my father that they should exercise patience while I set up the government.
Na zugu ngonna binyangan yiso ba yasungu tumama okuchana no susini kimalla habari nuziki bia suhdu amani dama karanya alkauli na yiko kunyanga yisu ministers maza baniya sungu kunyanga tumtumama kasuhdu achana.
And so as soon as that is done, we might have to invite my father, but I cannot sit in Accra and invite him. I have to come and alert him in advance that an invitation like that will come. In my last briefing with Nana Akufo-Addo before he left office, he briefed me about some mediation efforts that they were undertaking. I wish to be able to discuss it with him and see how we can continue that effort.
Now, one day, do I President Nana Akufo-Addo to gwamnati kuruso wan zantuma wan wanda di boko azama ko yelu wan pompile shem do zogo wan yelu shema kabelo hankale ne na ne yiko ko jene onumbole ke ikana ko sangala azamandi kenya yenga wula kasudo acha boko na ni sulen samaza.
I know that he and the late Yegbonra and Otunfo were the ones who solved the Dagon problem.
Na ne yiko ni zanchantabele Yagbonra zantabele ashanti hini nyininda doanzane yabatama yanda doanzane kasudo acha dagwanguna.
Nanado gave me a hint that Otunfo has been playing some role.
Zugo President Nana Akufo-Addo datu lahbare no Otunfo pompilen tumanla atuma.
And so I'm supposed to be with Otunfo on the 19th of this month.
Zugo onengeshiri no sumi ngorpa lwa da piana we onenchanya asante hine mungba ngomenya ugba won daman pala wula.
So when I go, it's one of the issues I'll discuss with him. And whatever comes out of it, I will inform my father. So I thank him very much, and I wish him good health. May God continue to give him long life so that he'll stay to look after us.
While speaking in Bawku, President John Dramani Mahama disclosed plans to make key security appointments this week, including the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Interior, and other critical positions. He stated that one of their primary responsibilities will be to prioritize peace-building efforts in Bawku and work towards resolving the long-standing conflict in the area.
And it's my first major assignment outside Accra. And so I decided to come and assure you that we're going to work very hard to make sure that we bring peace back to Bawku. I remember when I was president, Bawku and surrounding areas were very peaceful, and work was going on, people were going about their duties. It's sad that this situation has occurred again. And I know that for the last 3 years, you have not been able to sleep. You've been living under stress. And so the priority of our government will be to bring peace back to Bawku so that everybody can go about his duties without fear of harassment. We want to assure you that we're putting in place the various appointments so that we can have ministers and other officials who are responsible for the security to take charge. And so within this week, we will do the appointments of the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Interior, the National Security Advisor, the National Security Coordinator, the BNI Director, and all the others. And when these appointments are made, I'm going to charge them to make Bawku one of the #1 priorities that they attend and deal with. And so I'll appeal to you to exercise patience, exercise restraint, and to let you know that I am apprised of the issue. I'm going to deal with it, and I can assure you, have trust in myself and this administration that by the grace of God, peace is going to come back. Permanent peace is going to come back to Bawku. And so, as my younger brother said, from here we'll continue to Nalergo to meet the Nairi too and deliver a message to him. We cannot live in a country where our people don't feel safe. People must feel safe to travel wherever they want at whatever time and not have people shooting at them. And so you can be sure that we'll deal with all these situations so that we all can have the peace that we need in order that our traditional areas can progress. So I thank you very much. May God richly bless you.
Let's take you now to Parliament because the minority are taking on the chairman of the Appointments Committee, Bernard Ahiafo, who they accuse of gross partisanship. Now, it will be recalled that on Monday, the minority and its leadership clashed several times with the chairman and the NDC majority on the committee over the modalities for the vetting. Now, addressing journalists in Parliament, MP for Tano North, Gideon Bawku, who spoke on behalf of the minority, claimed that the chairman of the committee was an obstacle to the committee doing an excellent job.
The Ghanaian people and the minority members of the committee the opportunity to conduct a thorough vetting of the nominees. He was protective of the nominees and extremely partisan. Members of the committee were shouted at by the chairman. You all witnessed how the member for Etiwa East, the Honorable Abuna Osei Asari, was shouted at in an attempt to protect the nominees. The chairman denied legitimate members of the committee the opportunity to ask relevant questions and railroaded the nominees through the process. It must be noted that the altercation between our side of the committee and the chairman was a direct protest against his conduct. Under the facade of a lack of capacity, he disregarded the fact that those he bullied were members of parliament and that the committee is a subbody of the House. It cannot be right that members who are taxed by the Ghanaian people with oversight are denied the opportunity to scrutinize the nominees. The chairman and the majority members of the Appointments Committee owe it to Ghana to assist us in fulfilling the work entrusted to us by the Constitution. If this is not changed, moving forward, we fear that an irreparable harm will be done to our democracy, with round pegs occupying square holes.
Well, Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins me in the studio with details. Kweku, we're seeing quite an active minority.
Yes.
There is concerns about the performance of Atuforsen. They said he lacked clarity of thoughts. Why exactly?
Yes, it's been 8 days in opposition so far, and they've really been up and doing, speaking a lot about some of these key issues. And in particular, they are zooming in regarding Dr. Castle Atuforsen. They say that the man who has led the charge for the NDC on issues of finance for the last 8 years since they've been in opposition, and also having served as a deputy minister under John Dramani Mahama when he was in office between 2013 and 2017, simply did not come to the committee very prepared. And that, in fact, some of the answers he gave were evasive. He did not stick to the key issues that he was asked. They zoom in, for instance, to e-levy. They talk about the fact that Dr. Castle Atuforsen and the NDC say they will scrap e-levy, but they have not announced how exactly they are going to fill in the gap that will be caused by e-levy and betting tax and other tax being scrapped. And they say what they suspect is that the NDC will take up these taxes, but introduce more draconian taxes, which is to them akin to robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so they believe that Dr. Castle Atuforsen has not shown enough commitment, has not shown enough of the mindset that he is ready and willing to be the next finance minister. Let's listen to Gideon Bawku again as they address Parliament today.
The Honorable Dr. Castle Atuforsen, who appeared as the finance minister designate, was evasive, inconsistent, and lacked clarity of thought. Having served as a deputy minister of finance and a ranking member of the finance committee, one would have expected his answers to be forthright and to exude concrete solutions. We acknowledge the Minister-designate's definitive commitment to scrap the betting tax, e-levy, COVID levy, and emission tax. While this act is commendable, it raises concerns that the minister failed to address. First, we would like to know how the minister-designate plans to make up for the revenue shortfalls that will arise as a result of the tax cuts. The minister's quick response was cuts in expenditure. While we believe expenditure cuts could be a possible way to match revenue with expenses in order not to run into fiscal deficits, it is not in itself the ultimate solution to address revenue shortfalls. Would the minister-designate's expenditure cuts affect teacher trainee allowances, nursing trainee allowances, free senior high school, the livelihood empowerment against poverty, subsidy on fertilizer for farmers? Would they affect the school feeding program? Would they affect salaries of government workers? The minister-designate's unconvincing responses regarding how he intends to make up for the revenue shortfalls leave us with no choice but to think that he will scrap these taxes but introduce new ones, perhaps more draconian than those he would scrap. We cannot give with his right hand and take back with his left hand.
Oh, that's Gideon there. They also raised concerns about the vetting of the energy minister designate,
Yes,
John Jinapor.
Yes, according to the NPP side, John Jinapor, I was calling Dr. John Jinapor, he has a PhD, but he doesn't use it.
Yeah.
So they say that John Jinapor had made certain comments while in opposition about privatization of ECG. And he at the time had said, according to them, that he was not so much in favor of the idea of privatizing some aspect of ECG's operation. But during his vetting, he did indicate that at least for the billing aspect of electricity and the collection part, he would have wished that that process would be privatized. And in fact, he's looking at 6 months to do so. They say that is not consistent and that he should stick to the position he took while in opposition because they believe he's simply doing this. And what he did at the time was simply because he was playing politics and not because he meant well for the Electric Company of Ghana. And so they take aim at him over that. They also talk about some of the issues having to do with the John Jinapor's interview with me at the inauguration, where he said that Ghana had only about 5 hours left of fuel to keep the lights on. They said that's clearly not true. In fact, when John Jinapor appeared before the committee, he sought to clarify what exactly he meant when he said that. But the ABP side have simply said that Dr. John Jinapor must not be playing politics with the Electric Company of Ghana and the energy subsector, for which reason they believe that he must take these into cognizance as he goes into the office as Minister for Energy.
They also raise concerns about conflict of interest when it comes to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice designate. What exactly is their concern?
So you will recall that when Dr. Dominic Ayeni faced the vetting committee, there were questions having to do with certain dealings of his office by way of his law firm, Ayeni, Feli and Partners. And he did represent certain companies who he no longer represents, but these institutions and firms have filed arbitration proceedings against the state, some of them demanding hundreds of millions of dollars. The minority's claim is that given that he represented some of these entities at some point in his career, and now coming into office as an Attorney General, if he is approved, he would have to go and put up a defense against these arbitration charges that have been filed against the state. And they believe that a conflict of interest may arise because these are former business partners of his by way of he representing them as counsel. And these persons now going to court to challenge the state's maybe termination of their contract and all of that. They say that that amounts to conflict of interest. And they would have wished that Dr. Dominic Ayeni would have rejected the offer that was made by John Mahama for him to become the next Attorney General because they believe he's neck deep in matters of conflict of interest. Listen to Gideon Bawku again, MP for Tananoff.
in the case of the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, the Honorable Dr. Dominic Ayine, it is clear he finds himself in a conflict of interest position. His law firm and he personally are representing companies that have filed arbitration claims in excess of over 500 million United States dollars. Can Ghanaians go to sleep believing that their money will be safe and that it will not be stolen through payment of dubious judgment debts, as we saw in the case of Wodiome? Ladies and gentlemen of the media, watch the space for GP, GC, and Cassius mining arbitration claims against the government of Ghana. In any serious country, we believe the Attorney General designate would not have accepted the appointment. Mr. Attorney General designate, why the public tribunal? What is our High Court not doing right, necessitating the creation of the public tribunal?
Well, just before they left that press conference, they also raised concerns about oral and its operations.
We know that oral has become such a topical matter having to do with the Operation Recover All Loot, that signature promise of the NDC as regards to going after persons they believe or claim have looted from the state. According to John Daco, who is also a new member of parliament, their strategy as a political party is that oral, and they've continued to insist, is an illegal creation. It has no legal backing, it has no basis in any statute or the Constitution of the Republic. And so, if you are or have been an appointee of President Akufo-Addo, and you have served between 2017 and this year when the government left office, if oral invites you or tries to do any work relating to you, you should just not pay attention to them. One, if they invite you, do not go. If they come to a land that you may have purchased from the state or anything for that matter, do not cooperate, because they believe that oral is an unconstitutional creature and must not be allowed to continue to go about doing things purporting to be legal that is simply illegal.
Yes, yes, sir.
The Attorney General designate is a law professor. When approved, he is going to be the chief enforcer of our laws. When he appeared before the committee and was asked about the legality of this oral, he justified it. He justified the unconstitutional establishment and putting together of people who go about harassing former government officials. We believe that the establishment of that oral committee violates and flies in the face of our Constitution. And so one would have expected that a law professor in the person of Dr. Ayine would have condemned it. But rather, he justified it. Now his justification is now putting the work of the police CID, IOCO, and special prosecutor, and constitutionally established bodies out of business. It is concerning, and we want the people of Ghana to know that no serious country will entertain anything such as this. And so if you are a former government official and you're invited by this so-called ORA, our advice to you from the minority is to boycott any invitation from the ORA team. We are not going to be part of it because we believe that there are constitutionally established bodies that can investigate any so-called misdeeds of the government. What are they doing? What they are doing is to go about disturbing people, entering homes, taking vehicles, seizing vehicles, and more or less taking over lands from people who have genuinely purchased land.
Well, away from Parliament, President John Dramani Mahama has announced key security appointments, naming the former Chief of Staff, Prosper Bani, as National Security Advisor. Mr. Bani, known for his expertise in governance and strategic planning, previously served as the Interior Minister during Mahama's earlier administration. Now, in addition, Mahama has also appointed the retired Commissioner of Police, COP Kofi Boycott, as Director of Operations at the presidency, alongside two other appointments. Well, these decisions were detailed in a press statement signed by Felix Kwachiofosu, the acting spokesperson for the president. Now, on your screens now, we put together just a quick profile of these individuals, just to let you know who they are and what they bring to the table. Now, let me start with the National Security Appointee profile, Prosper Douglas Kweku Bani, National Security Advisor to the President. Let's look at his educational background. He has a bachelor's degree in arts, political science, and sociology. He has a master's degree in development studies, politics, and development strategies. He also has international development studies from Masters of Art, Comparative Politics and Government. Now let's look at his experience. He lectured at the Ghana Institute of Journalism between the year 1984 to 1992. He was an international aid and development manager. He's also the former Chief of Staff of Ghana, former Minister for Interior, senior manager and specialist in international peace building and development processes for the United Nations. Now let's look at the President's nominee for Director of Operations at the Presidency, COP Nathan Kofi Boycott. Now, his educational background, he has a degree in political science at the University of Ghana. He attended the Ghana Police Academy. He has a master's degree in criminology at the University of Cambridge. Now, he also has quite a long experience when it comes to security. He was the Ashanti Regional Police Commander in the year 2001. Now, if you recall, the controversial issue that came up as far back as 2005 up to 2006, the famous apprehension of notorious criminal Atai, who was a hardened criminal. And if you're young, you would not remember this, but for some of our old individuals, they would know how notorious this individual was, and he actually played a key role in making sure that Atai was apprehended and is currently behind bars. He was Director General of the Ghana Police Service Operations in the year 2005, and so many have applauded him for ensuring the arrest of Atai and subsequent prosecution. Let's look at his experience. He was Director General of Central Investigation Department for the CRD in the year 2014. In 2017, he was Director General of Research and Planning for the Ghana Police Service. He is a key member of the oral team, which the President commissioned. And so we're looking at his experience so far. Another key individual that the President has nominated is DCOP Abdul Usman Razak. He has been nominated for the National Security Coordinator position. And let's look at his educational background. He has advanced studies in security and public administration. He, at some point, was course director at Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. He has a master's degree in philosophy. That is Charles Kipo. He is the Director General of National Intelligence Bureau. Now, we're looking at his education right now. He has a master's degree in philosophy and in global leadership at UPSA. He also holds a master's degree in conflict resolution. He is one that has held the position of an analyst at National Security Council. And so these are the names that the president has put out this afternoon. And so we're just giving you a sense of their expertise and their area of, specialty. That way we see what they're bringing to the table. Let me bring in Colonel Festus Abuaje. Right now we're looking, apart from their expertise, some of the key issues that they may have to be dealing with as a security expert. Now, we've seen some sort of commitment from the president to tackle security issues. Key amongst them, he makes mention of chieftaincy disputes. He has already visited some key areas like Bawku, Nalerugu. He's looking to bring back peace. So, looking at this team that has been appointed, what are some of the key issues they may be looking at in their role? Colonel, I'm wondering how critical are the roles of National Security Advisor and the Director of Operations when it comes to shaping security and governance in the country?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear now. Initially, I couldn't.
The roles are critical, extremely critical, simply because there are several agencies in different institutions, all of which contribute to national security and the intelligence gathering and analysis. So the primary role of the security coordinators outfit or the security advisors outfit is to bring together all of these agencies in order to compare and harmonize, whatever information that these agencies have collected. In the absence of, such an outfit, you're going to have a bit of turf war. Yoko, Police, CID, the Financial Intelligence Center, Defense Intelligence, and so on and so forth. Even Foreign Affairs Research Directorate, all of them contribute to, the work that this national security outfit does. Now, having announced them, we suggest that, as the president said at Bawku, that one of the critical areas of concern currently for our national security is the Bawku conflict. So that is actually written into the objectives, ensuring peace in conflict areas is one of the objectives that, was spelled out in the National Security and Intelligence Act. But generally, this outfit contributes to protecting the unity and stability of Ghana. There could be different tendencies. Transorganized crime, for instance, proliferation of small arms and ammunition, ethnic conflicts, the Galamsey, all of these are threats and risks to our national security. And it's this outfit that is going to look at, in fact, traditionally, the outgoing minister and his staff have done this work, except that it looks like the new government has downgraded the minister's position to the advisor's position. So even if we call it a ministry with a chief director and so on and so forth, the head of that, let me call it department, will be the national security advisor. I don't have any qualms about that. You may not necessarily be, you don't need to become a minister before you're able to discharge your duties or functions. For me personally, the one thing that concerns me is the unconstitutional manner in which this national security outfit was enlarged and expanded, i.e. the presence of an armed unit under the direct command and control of the security advisor or the minister. And the Constitution doesn't provide for any other unit or force. So ordinarily, any resource that this national security outfit needs must either go as a request to the IGP or as a request to the CDS, one of the first things I want to see happening is the demilitarization of the national security outfit. So they focus primarily on the policy formulation and the coordination of the activities of the security agencies and gathering early warning signals and so on and so forth. You don't need soldiers, you don't need police to do that. But where there are physical threats, then as a product of the analysis that this outfit does, a directive will be issued to either the police or the military to do that. And that will mean that we need to clean up the system. All those who were there who have been armed, especially the Goro boys, party boys who were smuggled into some of these structures and armed. They must all be identified and disarmed and demobilized, if I could put it that way. But I don't know these personalities. I know COP Kofi Boakye on TV only. Honorable Prosper Bani, I know him remotely. So I will not be able to comment on their competencies. But I can only assume that the authorities have done due diligence and have established that these individuals have what it takes to do the job that is specified in Act 2030, I think, if that is what it is. Yes, sorry, Act 1030, which is the National Security and Intelligence Agencies Act of 2020. Okay. The other concern that somebody just called me and expressed that, with regards to the DCOP Razak, who is still serving. Yeah. And I've been educated that the Act doesn't say that the person has to be retired. So you could have somebody who is still in service in any of the public services who could do the work that this DCOP Razak is going to do. The challenge, though, is that as a coordinator, when he convenes a meeting routinely, I don't know how often they meet, but let's say twice a week or whatever the periodicity is, you're going to have the IGP there. Who is the IGP? Then you have a DCOP chairing the meeting at which the IGP is. So it might have augured well if he was a retired police officer. And once you are retired, there is no correlation between the rank that you're retired with and the rank of the IGP or the CDS. But I'm very sure that the new authorities will find a way of navigating some of these, challenges.
Just before I let you go, I also want us to look at the Director General of the National Intelligence Bureau and the role that he would be playing in government security agenda. Also, the Director of Operations at the Presidency. We're looking at some of the key concerns being raised with regards to our security and what areas they should be looking out for.
Well, the practice, the best practice, is that because there is a plethora of security and intelligence agencies in all jurisdictions, the rationale is then to have a national security coordinating outfit. So whether there is a national security or security advisor at the presidency, which there was, my own good friend, Brigadier General Ochre, was a presidential advisor. But wherever they are, if they attend these meetings, they attend in order that the information they have will be coordinated, collated, and synthesized in order to get a common security and intelligence picture, which then informs an executive directive that, as I've suggested, might go to the police, or for that matter, any of the agencies, YOCO, Police, CID, Defense Intelligence, Financial Intelligence Center, and so on and so forth. I don't see a contradiction. We need to follow what we have been practicing. So in any jurisdiction, you have the traditions that have been established, which include the practices, and then you have the law. So the practices and the traditions actually concretize whatever the law has stipulated. The removal of a minister, indeed, previously there was no minister. Again, my very good friend, Dr. Amu, for instance, during the President Kufuor's time, was a national security advisor. And then you had this gentleman, Honorable Francis Bawku, as the national security minister. There were tensions during that era. And
Oh dear, we seem to have lost connection to Colonel Festus Awaji.
We can speculate that there could be tensions. It takes leadership to resolve those tensions in order that we downplay or we address whatever turf wars, might arise because somebody coming from the presidency will feel superior to, everybody else and so on.
Now, I'm wondering, what are the key challenges you foresee that these appointees may likely face, given the current political climate and the security concerns you have mentioned?
Well, I don't foresee any challenge because we are not a state at war. We have security issues, Bawku being one, the sporadic armed robberies and so on and so forth, and but the outgoing government has managed them until this time. So it's up to the new group of national security officers to take over, review the plans that existed, and then go ahead with whatever new plans or strategies that they may have. Funding may also be a challenge because intelligence and security work cost a lot of money. Sometimes that money is misapplied, by the officers who handle some of these operations, taking girlfriends, whatever, drinking beer, those kinds of things. But otherwise, I should think that given the importance, the critical importance of security and intelligence, the government will prioritize the budget for the national security outfit so that there wouldn't be any gaps, in the security work and in the intelligence gathering work.
Now,
maybe the funding taking over could have a bit of, challenge here or there. But I've been told that there is a technical process. For instance, we have not heard of the revocation. So we assume that the Minister for National Security, Honorable Kandapa, is still Minister for National Security. There must be a revocation order. And I've also been told that there's a role that the Public Service Board plays, in marching out the old group of officers and then ushering in this new one. But these are things that I think the officers who are being appointed already, not these officers, but the appointees that the president has outlined, will find a way based on legal advice to try and rectify some of these legal bottlenecks.
Now, as we wrap up the conversation, I'm just looking at some of the commitments the president is showing us. One, commitment to resolve the long-standing conflict in Bawku and some of the challenges ahead of him. We've been hearing from Stephen Asamoah-Boateng, the then Chief Sensing Minister, raise concerns about the political undertones in Bawku and how it will be quite difficult to resolve the impasse there if that is not dealt with. How do you feel that this current administration can indeed bring lasting peace to Bawku?
So I think the president mentioned this phenomenon around the Bawku conflict. It's an old conflict. It's not a new one. It's been there, as far as I know, from about 1930, when the white man came up with a certain arrangement to say that the Nairi is the king of the Mamprosis, is the overlord of all the Mamprosi land. But the Bawku Naba is the chief of the Kusasis. You see it. The intricate challenge is that as Bawku Naba, you need to go to Narerigu to swear an oath to the Nairi. Now the Kusasi say, but we are not Mamprusis, and we don't recognize the Nairi as our king. So occasionally this arm flexing comes up, and this current escalation, not October, at the point in time when a rival chief was installed, and the previous government said that it did not know, and we're talking about intelligence here, that with all the resources vested in the national security apparatus, the government didn't know until the morning when the rival chief was going to be installed, and they flew with a helicopter, and they said they couldn't land because the situation on the ground was not congenial. That was the beginning of the escalation. The undertone of that incident was that the Mamprusis were expecting certain approaches to be adopted by the outgone government, i.e. the MPP, because Mamprusis aligned with the MPP. And once they were not seeing that and time was running out for the government, without the guarantee that the government might continue in power, they thought they could find a way of drawing attention to the Bawku conflict. And this is the point where this incoming president is taken over. And he's recognized that although he's going to bring leadership, he should take partisan politics out. I.e., when the Minister of Defense, I think it was, last year or so, led a peace delegation to Bawku, I said that it wouldn't work that way, because the minister is an MPP member. So you need to have the authority to back another group. Let's call them the mediation group or the peace building group. Now, whether it is WANEP, whether it is National Peace Council, whether it is the Asantehene, or whether it is some other eminent chiefs and personalities, they will be seen as being neutral. Then the government will give them all the support that will be required. So when the government takes the lead in designating its ministers as peace builders, it will not work, because the Mamprusis will see anybody who comes as an envoy of the sitting president now as being partisan. So the mention of Asantehene, fortunately, that behind the scenes is already doing some work. And we need to recognize that through the instrumentality of that approach, we're able to resolve, at least temporarily, the Dagbon conflict. So these are some of the challenges that they may have. The trust, how they will be able to build trust in the new crop of officers, that they are neutral, and they will only be pursuing their functions, but not playing politics, and not allowing Kusasis the room to perpetrate certain atrocities against the Mamprusis.
Okay.
That will be the challenge, you know.
Thank you so much, Colonel Festus Obwaji. He is a security expert. Now, let's stay with President John Dramani Mahama, because he has announced his first batch of regional ministers, and they are ministerial nominees. Now, the spotlight falls on the Greater Accra region, the Ashanti region, and the Upper East region. Why? We'll tell you why. Because the Greater Accra region and the Ashanti region are the country's most populous regions, while the Upper East region takes center stage due to the ongoing Bawku conflict. Now, the administration is prioritizing efforts to secure lasting peace in the area, reflecting its commitment to national stability and development. Now, let me bring you details of that statement put out by the presidency. Now, we know that out of the 16 regions, so far, he has put out the names of 10 regions, and he has nominated regional ministers for that 10 regions. As to why he left out the other 6, how soon that will be done, it is yet to be known, and we'll tell you as soon as we have that information. Now, let's look at the gender breakdown. There are 3 females in that list, and there are 7 males. Let's look at the individuals who have been able to secure the spot. We start from the Greater Accra region. Linda Oklu, one of the 3 females in that list. She's the Member of Parliament for Shai Osudoku constituency. She has a BSc in Administration, Banking and Finance from the University of Ghana. And if you recall, on the polls, we had an engagement with her. She was just telling us about how she's expectant of that nomination, and now we're seeing that play out now. She's one of the 3 women on that list put out by the president, and we're seeing his commitment to ensure that women are part of his government. In the northern region, Ali Adolf John. He is the Circuit Supervisor and Desk Officer with the Ghana Education Service. He has a bachelor's of education from UEW. He also has a master's degree in technology from the same university. He is the NDC Northern Regional Chairman, and he is now the regional minister for that region. That's if he sails through all the processes. Now, in the Ashanti region, we have Dr. Frank Amwakuhini, quite vocal on social media. He's a medical doctor. He has an MBA from the Accra Business School. He is the NDC Ashanti Regional Secretary. He is the former NDC parliamentary candidate for Mampong, and he's also the former NUGS president. Now let's take you to the Volta region, where James Gunu has been nominated as the regional minister for that region. He is a media practitioner. He has a degree in journalism. He also has a master's degree in development communications. Also has a master's degree in local governance and government administration. He is a former MC for Akachi. The second woman on that list, Rita Akosua-Ejay, she has an MPhil in leadership from UPSA. She's the former presiding member of Yilo Krobo Municipality. She's the Deputy Eastern Regional Women's Organizer for the NDC, and also she's currently doing her PhD in migration at the University of Ghana. Now let's head to the Upper East region, where Donato Satanga has been nominated as the regional minister. We have the breakdown of some of his key qualifications there for you. He has a master's degree in human rights. He also has a bachelor's degree in education. He is the coordinator for the school feeding program. He's also the member of Bongo District Assembly. Let's head now to the Northeast region, where Ibrahim Tia has been nominated the regional minister there. He has a BSc in Information and Communication Technology, postgraduate diploma in Management Study, a mini MBA in Project Management, a former Deputy Northern Regional Manager for the NHIA. He's also the Northeast Regional Secretary for the NDC. And then we head to the Savannah region, where Salisu has been nominated. Awiribi, he has been nominated as the regional minister for that region. He actually has a degree in law. He's a lawyer. He's also a law lecturer. He's a former district chief executive for Central Gonja. He has a master's degree in law as well from the University of Ghana. He has a bachelor's degree in land economy from KNUST. So quite a rich CV there from the regional ministers that have been nominated by John Dramani Mahama. Let's head now to the OT region, where John Kojo Japon there has been nominated for that position as a regional minister for the OT region. He's the former MP for Akan constituency. He is the OT regional chairman for the NDC. He has a bachelor's degree in education at the University of Cape Coast. Let's head now to the Ahafo region, where another woman is standing proud there, Charity Gardner. She has a BA in Human Resources. She also has an MA, Master's degree in Human Resource Management. She's a businesswoman, and she also owns a non-profit and humanitarian organization where she's been doing a lot of work there. So that's the list of some of the individuals that have been nominated yet. But we told you that we're yet to see nomination for 6 different regions. That's the Bono region, Bono East, Western, Western North, Upper West, and Central region. Now, these regions are yet to put out the names of the nominees for regional ministers, and we're wondering why exactly, just as you are. We're yet to get official communication as to why that is the case, but we have hints that it will be released sooner than later. Let me bring in a local governance analyst just to look at the portfolio of these individuals and some of the key things we're looking at. We're focusing on the Greater Accra region, the Ashanti region, and also we're looking at some of the key challenges they may have to deal with. Ni Amate, he is a lecturer at the university at UPSA. Thank you so much for your time here on The Pulse. Now, let's get your initial reaction and your impression of the nominees. How significant are these challenges that they may be facing, especially when you look at the Greater Accra region? You might have to unmute for me, sir, so that I can hear you clearly.
So thank you very much for having me, and I'm glad to be here. Yeah. So we know that the regional ministers are supposed to be the president's representatives, and they are to oversee the operations of various government agencies and departments, and then they implement governmental policies, and they make sure they deliver public services on behalf of the government, and then they promote development initiatives. So it's very, very important for them to be there, since the president cannot, like we say in Ghana, divisible himself into twice. In this case, divisible himself into 10 or 16 regions, regional ministers. With the 6 that are yet to come, we can make a guesstimation that it's a gradual process, and we have just been given this 10, and I think we can work with this whilst they also work. Remember, I keep saying I have so much pity on President Mahama, because there will be so much pressure on him to satisfy everybody. Remember, when you're campaigning, you have all manner of persons joining you to do stuff for you. Some contribute by way of money, others physical strength, and by way of other logistics. So you also would have to compensate them by, So I really feel for him, and I'm sure because of the numbers involved, and then he has to make a selection that will be fit for purpose, and that is why we should be seen not to be rushing or stampeding him into just fulfilling the 16 regions with those ministerial positions. And so with the 10, we can work with them. First of all, I think the gender balance is not there. I keep wondering why, even with this 10, you have just about 3 females and then 7 males. I'm hoping that when the 6 are eventually released, maybe the women will take the majority positions. Coming to the 4, of course, is the Upper East, which we all have heard, and we keep reading the news that the conflict is escalating. And I'm very happy that President Mahama mentioned recently, or was it today, that he'll be meeting at Santini on the 19th. And so meeting on the 19th, one of the major issues he would like to discuss with him is the issue in Bawku. And it has to do with the role that the Asantini played earlier in the resolution of a similar, conflict, and the fact that he keeps playing similar roles behind the scenes. And we should be able to pray for the success of such meetings. Otherwise, like the security expert says, if you leave it in the hands of the politician, others might be seeing them as coming in to play their function in a way that they will support those who are in their party. And that is why we would like a neutral body made up of the chiefs, Asantini, etc., so that we'll have a good resolution. And then nib it, just make sure that we clear the conflict once and for all. I know it's an age-old conflict, and but there's nothing impossible. I think we can really, really clear this if we do not allow our political colors to becloud our actions. And then Greater Accra, Linda Oklu, she has what it takes. I mean, she's been the outstanding MP, if you remember, outstanding female MP. And then West African.
Oh, we seem to have lost connection to Nia Mate. Whilst we work on that, we're just...
Young Leaders Awards. She also had that for exceptional...
thankfully, we have him
Am
back.
I on?
Yes, loud and clear, I can hear you now.
Okay, so what I'm saying in effect is that she has what it takes, and I believe she can do the job. And that is why I think she's been given it. But she should also know that there are serious situations. And in this case, I'm going to mention the Greater Accra with Ashanti region. Two populous regions, and coming in as the populous regions, you have all manner of things, especially robbery. And it's the reason I need to commend the IGP once again for that visible policing that has been portraying all this while. I think what she has to do is to work with the security agencies in order for her to be successful. If you take away these armed robberies and these crimes, we also have flooding. And many situations of flooding cases at Odona, for instance, and then the Odo should be dredged. She has to work in tandem with the lands and the mineral resources or water resources or sanitation and water resources. I mean, if they're going to maintain that title, I don't know. But she has to work in tandem with many others in order for her to be successful. She should not in any way resort to that one-man show.
Unfortunately, we've lost me once again. It was just talking about some of the key things that Linda Oklu in the Greater Accra region would have to look out for. He's making mention of sanitation, even as he looks at the Ashanti region as well. We have connection to him now. I'm told Nia Mate is back. Please make that point.
Okay, so what I'm saying in effect is that the same could be said about Ashanti region, where Dr. Frank Amakuhine is going to head. And I see from his academic and employment background that he's a youth leader, is an expert in healthcare, governance, public service. I mean, who else would you entrust such a region onto? And we believe he could do the job. But like I'm saying, no one should run a Rambo show. They should work with their chiefs, they should work with the police heads, regional council, and all. So otherwise, even people go underground to work with the robbers to be updated with the new involved in the dark world. And so that's about what I think in challenges.
Now let's look at the Ashanti region again, because we've just been hearing from the president talk about the need to create teams to patrol the markets. We know both in the Greater Accra region and the Ashanti region, they have large markets. And so fire and security would also be some of the key things they may have to look at. Now, expatiate on that for me.
Well, so we know about these fire situations. Recently, the Katamanton. market was the last we read about, and we're hoping that should be the very last. I heard a BBC news that they cannot rule out the fact that some persons might have evil intentions and therefore they might have that of sin. Second effect is that these things do happen. They do happen sometimes because of carelessness, sometimes as a result of recklessness, and sometimes it's a deliberate thing, sometimes, done by politicians from behind the scenes, as we have read over and over again. What effect is that these regional ministers must be people who lived with the people, who have lived there, grown up there, and they know exactly what it takes in situations such as this. So when there is a flood, how was the situation resolved? When there's a situation of arson, is it a case that somebody did it or it was by accident or something? What do you do? And keep repeating flood, because you remember what happened at Circle, and it's going to be 10 years since that thing happened, and you need to find a permanent solution to these things. Otherwise, if you pick out somebody who did not grow up there, and you just pick somebody who has helped during the campaign, and you then threw the person there, I'm not sure you succeed. And the reason I believe Mahama has kept long, or perhaps hasn't yet brought the 6 other lists. Yeah.
Now before we move on to other regions, I'm quite interested in the Volta region as well. But in the Ashanti region still, we know that one of the key concerns are concerns about the activities of illegal miners. The past administration tried to deal with illegal mining, especially the Ashanti region, but was unsuccessful. So looking at the regional minister and the job ahead of him, how best do you feel that we can deal with the issue of illegal mining in the Ashanti region?
You say, and that is where I disagree with some of you journalists. We know exactly what went on. And if you check from the writings of the heart surgeon, Professor, what's his name? I've forgotten the name. If you read exactly what he wrote, you realize that there were politicians involved in what was going on. Again, there was this explanation that previously, was it a 2020 elections, the immediate past government said they lost all of the mining regions, the mining areas. They lost the elections there because they tried to stop the galamsey there. And because of political expediency, they couldn't do the job well.
Mr. Mata, you agree with me that trying isn't enough, is it?
Pardon me?
You would agree with me that trying isn't enough. Effort doesn't equate results.
Yes, but...
So where then lies your point?
Yeah, what I'm saying in effect is that if you have politicians getting involved in matters to do, I mean, look at the watercolor, and you have politicians who have taken over the tractors. What happened to the tractors that were seized? Did they fly away? And so what I'm saying in effect is that if the politician, if there are things we don't leave in the hands of politicians, if you leave such things in the hands of politicians, they will play politics with it. At the end of the day, you achieve nothing. So what I'm saying in effect is that we should be more than what the past government did. If you consider the fact that you lost elections in that area and therefore you won't do anything about it, I mean, just that because of your parochial interest, the rest of Ghana should suffer. Is it a good news to that in about 5 to 10 years we're going to import water? Is it a good news? How much money do we have in the first place to spend some to import what we can protect and to have it in abundance? And so the Ashanti regional minister has a lot to do. If he must succeed, he must take away the partisan aspects of it. He must be efficient in perhaps putting up committees or units who will do a job not because they are taking away the galamsees, so they replace them. But they are working to serve the interests of Ghana and to make sure that the totality of Ghana benefits from that effort.
Now, as we wrap up the conversation, within just 1 minute, I wanted to highlight some of the key issues that the Volta Regional Minister, James Garu, nominee, may have to face when it comes to that region.
Well, so James Ganu, again, will go there as the president's rep, but I plead with James Gunu. James Gunu. Is it Gunu or Gunu?
It's Gunu.
I plead with him.
Yes.
Gunu. Yeah. I pray that he will do an excellent job. He's a journalist, he's a MA, he has MA in development, and then he was also an expert in local government. What I'm expecting, and then he was the MC, can you imagine, Akachi? What I'm expecting of him is that he won't play politics with his post. Go on to do a job the way he should do it, so that when you talk of, look, the way the Ashantis and the Voltarians play politics with NPP and this sad scenario, and you can imagine that the totality of the Voltarians voted for the NDC.
Okay.
What I'm expecting James to is to go there and do a good job and decide not to play politics.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nia Mate, for your time here on The Pulse. He's a local governance expert. Now, we'll be back with more stories. You want to stick and stay with us after this quick reader. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. Now, let's take you to the Ashanti region, because many sports and betting fans are eagerly awaiting the abolishment of the 10% betting tax by government. But will the abolishment of the tax restore betting and sports enthusiasm, or raise deeper questions about the country's revenue mobilization? Well, my colleague Clinton Yeboah sought public reactions in anticipation of the abolishment. Let's listen.
I'm in the midst of football fans and betting fans, and the proposal or the intention to cancel or remove the betting tax of 10% has generated mixed reactions among these youth. Stana is an ardent bettor. As part of the quest to find daily bread, he resorts to betting, hoping to get double or even triple of his money. The energy to win hundreds, thousands or millions is as high as it syncs with his desire to earn a living to feed his home. But the earnings from the betting is in dispute now, as he is propelled to forfeit 10% of his betting winnings to the government in tax. He shows me a bet receipt for the day, indicating that his wins are diminished and his income is greatly affected. The tax on betting should be scrapped now that he has assumed office. That is what we use to generate some income. Jobs are limited. We are currently not taking as much as we used to. Similar sentiments are echoed from this group of bettors who say the betting tax regime has removed the fun of betting and sporting, leading to a drop in participation. They feel the tax has forced betting companies to tighten their systems, making it harder to win.
Slips need a gumbebri soon and no betting because of tax.
Individuals should not pay taxes on bets. Because of the tax, I think betting companies have also tightened their strategies, and it's hard for us to win. In 2023, the Akufo-Addo government introduced a 10% tax on all betting, remote interactive gaming, lottery, and other games of chance. The government imposed the betting tax to discourage people from excessive betting, much like the taxation of alcohol and cigarettes. Presently, the John Mahama demonstration aims to abolish the betting tax. Bettors view this intervention as a way to encourage sports participation and economic freedom, as they admonish the president to stick to his promise.
So the
promise is not fulfilled. We would have to revote. However, not everyone agrees. Sports pundit and analyst Stephen Zandu believes the tax should be maintained, but reduced in rate from 10% to 1%.
And we can decide to actually repurpose that into sports development. almost every Ghanaian complains about, poor pitches in the country, the fact that, our sports industry is not doing well, football is not doing well, and what have you. At the end of the day, it boils down to investments, and we cannot really achieve anything significant, without investment. Government must step in to invest in sports. You pay 1%. And the 1% goes into the sports fund, which will be earmarked for sport development.
Public interest analyst Eugene Osei-Tutu, he believes scrapping the tax will nonetheless reinstate the business landscape and excitement of sport and betting.
I particularly do not think that the 10% tax deterred people from betting. It just may be someone who was trying to try his luck or something, but people who genuinely bet, because people who bet 100,000, 200,000, these are people who look at that activity as a form of a business of a sort. I think that did not deter them. But with the government taking away the betting tax as promised by the finance minister, I think that it will be excitement for most Gen Zs and most youth. We don't have lots of money as young people, so when taxes are being taken away from such activities, to excite certainly the base of the youth.
The finance minister designate, Dr. Kaisel Atoforsen, has pledged that government in its first budget for 2025 will remove or scrap the betting tax. And that is what the youth are courting their hopes on for now. For Joy News, my name is Clinton Yabwa.
Let's head now to the Volta region, where there is currently water service providers, and they are cashing in on the shortage of water in the area because the Ghana Water Company Limited is unable to supply parts of the whole municipality and the whole West District of the Volta region. Now, this is due to a defective pump shaft at gov't and the intake of headwork at the Ghana Water Company Limited. Now, the demand for private vendors has skyrocketed as they have become the only reliable source for the essential commodity. Joy News' Fred Kwame Asari took a tour of the affected areas and filed the following report.
Vivian Afolepe sets out in search of water in the Kokompe suburb of Ho, where the Ghana Water Limited supplies water once a week. She depends on water from a nearby well for domestic use. Her situation became dire when the Ghana Water Limited experienced a faulty pump at gov't in the first week of January, hence being unable to supply water to parts of the whole West District and the whole municipality of the Volta region. Most residents were therefore compelled to depend on borehole owners to get the essential commodity for use at home and other places. To salvage the situation, the Christ Resurrection Power Chapel International decided to provide water to members for free and non-members at a token to keep the pumps on and maintain the facility.
Church members, when they come, is free. But if you're not a church member, you pay a token for electricity. But if you're a church member, when you come, it's free. So she even told me she saw plenty gallons from church members, and I said they should take it free. Yes, because you are working to make their lives better.
Due to the high water demand, some people took advantage of the situation and quickly started water delivery services. Though it appears a bumper season for those engaged in sales of water, they lamented the pressure on their machines.
Because I'm going to pure water away, but with this, I can't use it for pure water. So normally, I am not a jam or cocoa in it. But what I was told
food vendors have also been hit hard by the inability of the utility service provider to supply water to clients.
Mizana chipa gaka eti ho tuna mile nkeke kumara ena be mile fukpele te ho is chichire afi ava kpochi ava danu evo to call mile nu dana ta ava wesi bebela mile fukpe blibo ta mi de kuku na to call no jagba no trasilo no wana necho nyapeti nya onani.
It is unclear when repair works would be completed on the defective pump shaft at Peve intake of the headworks of the Ghana Water Limited. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Oh.
Let's come back now to the Greater Accra region because scrap dealers have reclaimed the former Agboglushi onion market, which was demolished nearly 5 years ago. Now, despite lacking official authorization, the group expressed confidence that the current NDC administration will not oppose their return because the land is still idle. My colleague, Sweetie Akochi, has been engaged in Salidu Swala. He is the group's interim chairman. Let's listen.
Less than a year ago, we did a report for you on the Joy News channel about scrap dealers and onion sellers who were displaced and were moved to Ajen Kotoku and the rest. But this morning, we are hearing that there are plans underway. As my cameraman will show you later, that there are structures here that shows that they are planning to return back to the same place that was demolished a little over, I think, 4 years ago or so. But the chairman is here with me. I want to hear the story from his own mouth. Chairman, thank you so much for speaking to us. I've seen structures. I've seen lots of people here. What's happening?
Grateful. You are welcome. We are here because we were here before. We've been here for over 30 years before MPP came and evicted us from here. So they forcibly evicted us. Even the relocation hasn't done. They have done nothing of that sort. They only relocate onion sellers, but they didn't relocate scrap dealers. And we suffered a lot in their hand. So change of government has come, whom we've worked with for several years when we were here. So I think it is good for us to come and replan how to sit, so that when the government is very certain, then they come for us to start our whole agreement.
You started by saying the NPP moved you, but I remember it was Henry Korte who was then the Greater Accra, yes. And so they said that they had plans to redevelop this place, Agenda 111 Hospital. In fact, we did a comprehensive report on this place, and at the time we came, the wall, the one that brings you into the Fadama Clinic, was still up. And so those were some of the complaints. What assurances did you get, for which reason you want to return back here?
But you can see the vast of the land. The land is there. They did nothing on the land. They removed us forcibly, but did nothing on the land. It is turned to rubbish dump. Nothing else. Yeah, it was very bushy. I'll give you videos. Initially, we couldn't even come here to stand, as we are standing here. So we are here because we were here. And the government of the day, I think, will support our businesses, because they were supporting us then.
You say you think will support, which means they haven't given you a go-ahead to come back.
No, not to come back. For them, coming back, it is not their priority. We have to come back. Well, we were here. Let me tell you, we were evicted here because of support base, political abuse. Tell me, if it's not political abuse, what have they done here? Which of the agenda, 77 or 99 or 11, what have they done here? Nothing else. Then to turn here to rubbish dump. So I think we are here because NDC government is a government that supports small-scale businesses like ours.
Well, it's time now to take you all the way to Germany because more than 60 German and Australian academic organizations say they will leave the messaging platform X, owned by Elon Musk. Now, they say that the algorithms were opposed to a discourse based on scientific and democratic integrity. Now, this comes after Musk voiced his support for Germany's far-right party, AfD, and held a talk on X with the party leader Alice Weidel. The planned withdrawal in the academic sphere comes as the German government says that it is also considering leaving the platform because it was having an agitated and polarizing effect on public political discussions. Well, joining me live now is DW's Thomas Barrow from Berlin, just to have a conversation on this. I'm wondering how relevant are the academic institutions that are leaving X, and what exactly did they say in their statement?
Relevant indeed. These are some of Germany's most prestigious academic institutions. And here in Germany, academic institutions, in particular universities, are very respected. So this basically means that when they make such an announcement, when they take such a decision, that is a decision that carries weight and that obviously fosters debate here in the country. In particular, what these institutions stressed is that X now does not foster a debate that is in line with their own values. Essentially, that the algorithm is not fostering a debate that can be seen as constructive or balanced, but in turn, that it is actually fostering a debate that can actually benefit parties on the fringe, like, for example, Germany's far-right party. This comes at a time when there's a big debate here in Germany, but also wider, also in Europe, about the role that social media platforms play in the democratic debate, and obviously here important in Germany ahead of those elections in February 23rd. So it's not only X, it's also a debate about, for example, Meta changing its fact-checking strategy. So all in all plays into this decision that the German and Austrian academic institutions announced that they were leaving X. It also comes at a time when there's a big debate about Elon Musk announcing his support for Germany's far-right, and in particular hosting that talk with the leader of the far-right here in Germany, Alice Weidel.
I'm just wondering how important X is in Germany, really, especially now considering the role played by Elon Musk in German politics.
It is important here in Germany in particular because until now, not only the federal government and government institutions, but also all sorts of organizations were actually on X and published their statements and discussed the democratic discussions that were happening on X. But X obviously has taken a turn since Elon Musk bought it a few years ago. And this is something that has obviously been discussed here in Germany. It is not the first time that German institutions and even the German government discuss openly or privately what they should do on X after Elon Musk took over. But as such, this is something that is being discussed because you have a dilemma. On the one hand, you have the algorithm that is changing. You have obviously these discussions about the far right. But on the other hand, and this is something that academic institutions and the government has also stressed, you have a lot of people that actually go to this social media platform. So basically, the potential also for information and reaching a wide number of people is also big on X. So that is, in essence, the dilemma that organizations are facing, that the government is also facing here in Germany.
How did the German government react to these debates?
The government is commenting publicly on this debate, but obviously with caution, not only because we're just leading into that election coming up in February, but also obviously because they cannot comment so openly as, let's say, an academic institution or politicians themselves. The government has obviously stressed its concern when it comes to the direction that X is going to. And obviously, they have also criticized Elon Musk's involvement in German politics, in particular, Elon Musk supporting the far right. The German government has stressed that they're looking very carefully and debating internally whether they have to leave X as well. But for now, they're still facing that dilemma that I mentioned. On the one hand, they can reach a lot of Germans on X. On the other hand, obviously, this platform is becoming also a problem, not only for the academic institutions, but also for government officials.
And are there also discussions on possible alternative platforms if these organizations continue to leave X?
As part of this debate, it's obviously the case that there's also a discussion about alternatives. And among the alternatives, there is a discussion, for example, about Mastodon or Blue Sky or Threads. But as part of this dilemma that we are discussing, there's the dilemma of reach. Because on X, you may have all sorts of problems from disinformation to the algorithms favoring a certain kind of discourse, but it is undoubtedly the case that these organizations and governments that are on X have already managed to build a community. They've managed to build reach. And this would be a challenge, if not a problem, that they would have if they go to platforms that are much smaller, that are only just starting or developing. So that is also among the arguments that are being discussed by organizations, by government officials when it comes to maybe leaving X or not leaving X. And if they leave, where could they go? So this is important to understand when it comes to the debate. It's about leaving X, and it's also about looking for potential alternatives.
Thank you so much, Thomas Sparrow, for bringing us that update all the way from Germany. And that's how we wrap up the pulse. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. Some top stories there. Boycott any invitation from oral team. That's from the minority to former government officials.